right, on to our unit level 3 we go. This episode will be looking at the geography, history, and religions of the Indian subcontinent. Like most civilizations, the success of a culture is based primarily on its geography. India and its ancient cultures are certainly no different. As we go forward on this journey, please make sure that you put away all distractions, including your cell phones, music devices, Xbox, whatever. Those items will only slow you down and hinder you from understanding the information. With this unit, there are no lecture worksheets that go along with it, but I do ask and expect you to be keeping notes on the materials that we talk about so that you are prepared for the test coming up next week. At the end of the lesson, if you have any questions or concerns, something you might not have completely understood, please let me know right away and we'll get them figured out for you. Now with that all out of the way, let's get learning. So, setting the stage about the Indus region, as it's known. Historians know less about the origins and the eventual decline of ancient Indian cultures because the language of the culture has not been translated yet. In the past, I might have mentioned the Rosetta Stone. With its discovery, archaeologists were able to translate different languages because the stone had the same text in multiple languages. This allowed them to decode the previously unknown languages. Unfortunately, they don't have that when it comes to these ancient Indian scripts or writings. We have the writings, but we don't have a way of reading it. There's no translator. There's no dictionary or universal translator to help us figure out what they were writing about. We have plenty of tablets and plenty of writings, but nothing to decode what exactly it meant. All we have are artifacts of pictures and things along that nature that kind of give us a clue of what it might have been like to live during these ancient times. So, let's take a look at what we got this time. We just ended talking about Egypt and its territory. Now we're going to take a little walk east, about 7,500 miles to the east into the Indian subcontinent. Looking at the region, I want you to make a few quick notices and a few quick observations. Okay? First, it's surrounded by water on all but one side. And as it happens, that one side is almost surrounded by mountains in the north, as you can see here. Think that the people that lived there probably didn't have to worry too much about invaders. Okay, they were protected by the ocean on both sides on the east and west, and the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. And to the north, they had a group of mountains. So invasion was probably not a big deal to them. Okay, now they did live there. They had to get there somehow, no doubt. But when it came to invasions and stuff, it probably didn't happen too much. So as we start out on our unit, we are going to, of course, focus on the geography like we always do. From the map, we saw a few slides ago that India is part of a larger area known as what we call the Indian subcontinent. This area is made up of modern-day countries of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and together they make up the Indian subcontinent. The region is separated by Asia as well as by several mountain ranges, some of the tallest mountain ranges in the world as it happens. These mountain ranges consist of the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the Himalayas. Some of these you might have heard before. These three sets of mountains lie in the northernmost part of India and Pakistan. Here you can see the Hindu Kush, and the northern center is in the northernmost center part of the area, whereas the Karakoram mountain range lies just east of that. And the Himalayas are a little southeast from even that. It is the Himalayas where Mount Everest is, the highest piece of land on Earth. Interesting fact about this particular place and region of the Earth is that these mountains continue to get taller every year. The tectonic plates are actually pushing onto India, pushing India rather into Asia. Originally, India would have been more of a mountain, or sorry, an island. But as thousands and millions of years have passed, that island is pushing its way into Asia, making those mountains even taller. Just like every other civilization we've come across so far, many ancient civilizations in India were founded next to a river. In this case, the Indus River. As we've seen, along ancient civilizations have relied upon rivers in order to survive. Farming was made possible in those areas that were directly watered by the Indus River. Because much of the lower Indus Valley is occupied by the Thar Desert, there is not a lot of other places for people to have lived except next to the river. So once again, we see that the river is what allows people to survive in this harsh environment. Another of the major rivers is the Ganges River. The Ganges flows from the Himalayas and flows across northern India. Going down the river on the Ganges, it eventually joins the Brahmaputra River and flows into the Bay of Bengal to the south, which leads obviously to the Indian Ocean. Keep this river in the back of your mind, because we'll be coming back to it in a bit. It has a significance to the people that once lived there as it does today. You may be able to tell that just by looking at the pictures here on the right, where people are bathing themselves in this river. So in future lectures and lessons, you'll see the significance of the Ganges River, and it even continues on today, that significance. On the map here, you can see the north and west, the Indus River flowing south after it was combined with a few other rivers. To the northeast is where you'd find the Ganges River, which flows south from the highlands of the Himalayas. As you see, it flows to the south and east into Bangladesh and eventually into the Bay of Bengal. The Ganges River is actually the final river that is made up of several smaller rivers that ended up joining together. So it's a much bigger river because of the smaller rivers that it started with prior upstream. Together, these 5 rivers that were joined make up the larger region called the Indo-Gangetic Plain, which was great for agriculture, transportation, irrigation, and all the things that a river does provide for the region. Every season, these seasonal winds called monsoons would dominate the climate of India. This can cause torrential downpours of rain, resulting in flooding. Imagine to have to put up with that on a very inconsistent basis, kind of like in Mesopotamia with its flooding. In this case, it would be wind and rain. Okay. These environmental changes were kind of a pain in the butt. Okay, sometimes they would flood, sometimes they wouldn't, sometimes they would create unpredictable changes to the environment. The list goes on, even to the point where sometimes the river, the Ganges River and some others, would actually change course. And that is obviously not a good thing if you live next to the river. Those darn monsoons would be unpredictable. Sometimes they would be wet, torrential downpours. Other times, those winds would create dry seasons that were not typical of the year before. So very unpredictable when it comes to whether it's going to be a wet season or a dry season.